The present moment is the work, so I punched in for a double. The words to follow are what I learned, and I begin by acknowledging my defeat. I was not a poet nor a sage. These words came to me pretty much this way. Please accept this as my apology. Hard truths like these words will prove inadequate to convey. How I found heaven. It was hiding in the now. Christ consciousness was the way. Welcome into the now. My name is Arch Cowan Jones, and what follows are poems from my book, Into the Now. Number 26, The Damned Ego Tree. Let's revisit a story that's been passed down through generations. A story about the dawning of suffering and of separations. When ego consciousness was born, it was first described as the fruit of a forbidden tree. Then separate selves hid behind separate bushes, and separate egos grew from the discarded seed. May I freshen up that allegory? Speak clearly what I believe, that under the damned ego tree we forgot our inherent unity in the fabled story of Adam and Eve. The setting was a garden, all things growing forth naturally. The Garden of Eden grew human-volition, animals, plants, weeds, and trees, the great earth-stretching evolution of earth and seas and soils and seeds. Before preferences entered the picture with the consciousness of infinitely separate you versus me. At that point in our evolution, though, all things according to their natures thrived on earth free. But the lone exception to the initial fractal freedom was the fruit of the damned ego tree, because the knowledge of potential goods and of evils would inevitably spread otherness to the corners on the breeze. But don't trust me. Let's try an experiment. Pay attention to your breathing. Then, to what your mind will next foment. My bet is that your next distracted thought will be made up of a knowledge of a longed-for good or a resisted evil, or a preference leading to competing with separate selves, so-called other people. A potential windfall or a fear, professional ambitions or scares, enemies, friends, tacos, beers, a new car, or better hair. The game of egoic consuming has become destructively redundant. We've lost inherent grounding to the storied life abundant. Consciousness is rapidly being lost. Our moments now just consist of a jumble of compulsively anxious thoughts, of prides and fears, of shoulds and oughts, and marketing as the new town preacher promises meaning in things we've bought. But the planetary misery that comes from humans, growing hell, is the product of the errant misconception projecting otherness onto separate selves. But the lesson taught when Adam and Eve fell was about forgotten ontological oneness, not assigning blame and moral perils. The expanse between pure experience and ego consciousness is what was once called the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. The fruit made us forget that it is fundamentally in terms of abstractions that we think. So said the late great Alan Watts. So instead I'll meet you in the now, where we are more than just our thoughts. Since it's becoming increasingly clear that in order for Earth to ever again be free, we must again begin to see all things as a cooperating us, not a competing you and me. Or entropic otherness will eventually boil off our seven seas, ending Earth's story in separated misery, unless mankind can now transcend the fruit of the damned ego tree. Vaya con Dios.
Those were a few minutes from Into the Now, a beautifully illustrated book of real poetry for a real people in a real world. To purchase the book, or to connect further, visit intothenow.org. You can support the author through subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing the episode with your friends. You can also financially contribute as a member of the gift economy at intothenow.org.